The super mutants are one of the oldest foes in Fallout. They have been present in every game entry since the very beginning of the series. Now with Fallout 76 on the way, and all the gameplay and trailers we've seen, it's confirmed that they'll be making a return in this entry. Since Fallout 76 is set so soon after the Great War, people are wondering why the super mutants are actually present in this game. In this video, I aim to explain why they are present in this game, and the possible situations that could have led them to West Virginia. Now, to understand why super mutants are present in Fallout 76, we need to look at the origin of super mutants, and then look at the possibilities of how they got to West Virginia from those origins. So as you probably know, super mutants are mutated humans, products of the infection of the forced evolutionary virus, also known as FEV. They are much taller, bulkier, and more muscular than pure strain humans. Although they are completely sterile and unable to reproduce, the rapid regeneration of their cells caused by the FEV makes them virtually biologically immortal. There are 3 different known sources of super mutants in the post-war world. Mariposa Military Base in New California on the west coast, Vault 87 in the Capital Wasteland on the east coast, and the FEV labs of the Institute in the Commonwealth, also on the east coast. All 3 of these populations have separate histories and origins, and are yet to interact with each other. So let's break it down game by game. In the original Fallout, super mutants were first created on the west coast by Richard Gray, also known as the Super Mutant Master, who led the first human survivor expedition to Mariposa Military Base in 2102. Their expedition was attacked by the base's automated security robots. He was dipped into a vat of FEV and managed to crawl out. Soon after he crawled out, he realised that he needed to make a super mutant army to make sure he could rid the world of all the impurities and make sure he had a master race. Over a 60-year period, Richard Gray converted unassuming wanderers who found their way into the military base into super mutant beings. After decades of trying to perfect his strain of FEV and dipping process, Richard Gray came to the conclusion that he needed humans untouched by radiation to create a perfect mutant race. And around the year 2155, the Master began seeking out uncontaminated, pure strain humans with which to create new mutants and build the super mutant army. However, in 2162, a person known to history only as the Vault Dweller of Fallout 1 destroyed the Master's mutant army by causing an explosion in the FEV vats at the Mariposa military base, which collapsed the entire base, after which he proceeded to the cathedral in the ruins of the Los Angeles Boneyard and killed the Master. Without the leadership of their creator and his lieutenant, the mutants divided into at least 3 factions. Some decided to leave California and find a place for themselves somewhere in the east, while a second faction wanted to continue the Master's work and dominate New California once again. A third faction remained in New California and tried to make peace with the Wasteland's humans and work together with them to rebuild the world after the Great War. Now, moving on to Fallout 2. In the year 2236, the Enclave, the remnants of the pre-Great War American federal government, discovered the remains of the Mariposa military base, and soon after, Enclave assault squads combed the desert for slaves they could use to excavate the military base and get to the FEV vats. The following year, having obtained the necessary data and samples to recreate the FEV, the Enclave abandoned the site after more mutations occurred among Enclave personnel exposed to the FEV remnants in the facility, causing a second generation of Mariposa super mutants to arise. A decision they would soon regret. The Enclave left a single squad behind to wipe out the super mutants, but the mutants, using armaments they had cached in the base during the excavation, reduced the squad to ashes after suffering heavy casualties. The remaining first and second generation super mutant slaves were sealed inside the base by the remaining Enclave squad, who collapsed the entrance to the ruined facility, and inside, the mutants formed a new community. By 2281, some super mutants from both generations had established a community in Black Mountain near New Vegas. The smarter and more organised Master's Army remnants are in charge of the dumber second generation mutants. Some other, more peaceful mutants reside in Jacobstown. Now that concludes the story of the super mutants on the west coast of America. Now moving on to the east coast super mutants in Fallout 3 and Fallout 4. In the Capital Wasteland of Fallout 3, the mutants present there are a production of Vault 87. As was commonplace in many vaults made by Vault-Tec, Vault 87 contained a sinister social experiment. Actually, I'd probably argue this is probably the most sinister experiment of all. Vault 87's assigned experiment was one called the Evolutionary Experimentation Program. Now this was an experiment where unsuspecting Vault 87 residents were unknowingly exposed to the FEV virus. It could be that the Vault 87 scientists achieved a strain of FEV which produced clever mutants in the early years of testing and production. However, on the day of the Great War, the surface entrance of Vault 87 was struck by a Chinese missile. This could perhaps be the reason why in Fallout 3 we encounter stupid mutants, indoctrinated with the message of bringing humans to Vault 87 to become super mutants. What I'm trying to say is this surface radiation of Vault 87 means that humans coming through the entrance to be turned into super mutants actually absorb enough radiation and they don't mutate as well as other super mutants earlier in the franchise. As a result, they become like mutants in Fallout 3 and Fallout 4. Now, speaking of Fallout 4, the last origin of super mutants we find out in the Wasteland is from the Institute, their FEV labs in Fallout 4. The super mutants encountered within the Commonwealth are in fact the unfortunate victims of failed FEV experiments, created and disposed of by the Institute. The mutants created by the Institute are quite similar to the Vault 87 super mutants, but possess a few key factors that are different. Unlike the Vault 87 super mutants, these super mutants are smaller, standing 7 feet tall, have darker skin tones, and appear more scrawny and less pronounced muscles. In terms of growth, both the Vault 87 super mutants and the Institute are the same, as they grow older with age, as evidenced by the behemoths. The mutants of the Institute do seem to understand more things such as armour and weaponry, and they appear to show tactical knowledge such as finding cover and ambushing and trapping people, and using captives as bait rather than capturing them just to turn them into mutants. However, one of the key similarities between the Vault 87 mutants and the Institute mutants is they both seem to want to preserve their new species. One piece of evidence that could suggest this is that they both refer to the green stuff when they talk about the FEV. Fallout 4 was probably the least heavy in terms of focus on the super mutants, so probably moving on, we should go on to Fallout 76 now. So considering all we've learned about the super mutants and looking ahead to Fallout 76, I feel like the more plausible option, or the more plausible plot point would be that Vault 87 super mutants migrated from the capital wasteland to West Virginia and spread out across that sort of east coast of America. I mean, clearly we can rule out that the Master's army migrated because it doesn't match up in terms of timeline, so we can eradicate all the plot points that could come from the West Coast because it's too far away. It take months and years to get over. We can just focus on the East Coast. So the Institute, I'm not really sure they would be interested in studying super mutants at that point. I mean, I just can't see it. I mean, it's plausible, but I can't see it. I just think that the Vault 87 super mutants, it said that the production started in 2078, so it's so early in the timeline that it's so plausible that they could move over to the forest and all the different zones of West Virginia. I'd like to think that early in the timeline that smart mutants would have come out of the FEV process at Vault 87, that they could have perfected the strain of FEV and brought them out into the wasteland to, interact and, survive. And then maybe that would be the scouting reports. Super mutants being sent out of Vault 87, they encounter people and see how they fare in the wasteland. So yeah, generally I just think that Vault 87 super mutants would be the more likely to transfer over into West Virginia. And yeah, so that's all I have for you guys. But yeah, before I go, I must mention that Bethesda can just make up their own lore in Fallout 76. They could literally just say there was another FEV lab, another vault in West Virginia that created them. So nothing is out of the realms of possibility. I would like to know what you guys think of my theory, and I'd like you to share your own in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I've put a lot of effort into this video, a lot of theorising, a lot of looking into things on the wiki and stuff, which you should definitely check out because it's an important part of Fallout's lore and stuff to keep it going. So thanks very much, thanks for watching, and goodbye.